He has 5 kickers I'm going to bench heading into Week 10. And the first guy is Rodrigo Blankenship. I spoke about him early in the week also on the drop list for kickers. And Blankenship, he's just not getting the job done of late. He had a horrible fantasy day a few weeks ago, missing an extra point, and another negative day he had that day. And now Rodrigo, 5 points he had versus Baltimore. This week he's at Tennessee on Thursday Night Football. But I don't know what to expect from Blankenship. He's just not getting the job done. Like I said, he was good up till Week 6, and now it's been downhill for him. Tennessee gives up the 29th least fantasy points to kickers, so I don't like it for Blankenship. He might only get you anywhere from 5 to 7 fantasy points. So he's a kicker I'm going to stay away from. The second guy is Joey Sly of the Carolina Panthers. Sly, he's been a decent kicker most of the season, but now Sly, the last 2 weeks, mediocre ball games. In Week 8, he had 5 fantasy points, and last week, not bad. He had a 40-yarder and a 4 PATs, but this week versus Tampa Bay, I think it's going to be tough sledding again for Sly, and I just can't see him having a great game. He'll maybe max out at 8 points again, when last year Sly, he was a higher kicker in the rankings and scored a lot of points. This year, only 3 games in double digits out of the 9, and this will be another game where he's not going to get double digits. The next guy is Jason Myers of the Seattle Seahawks. You know, the Seahawks mentality is to keep scoring touchdowns and to score them early and often. And Myers, I know he's had 2 good fantasy games out of his last 3 with double-digit points of 12. But this week versus the Rams, I think Seattle, they're going to try to score a touchdown just about every drive they could. Myers, believe it or not, on the season, he only has 7 field goals made, I believe. Yes, 6 field goals made is Myers. So it's all PATs for him for the most part. This Seattle offense, they lost 2 out of their last 3 games because they haven't punched it in the end zone. But I think this week they're going to get it in the end zone more, where Myers is only going to be limited to extra points and maybe 1 or 2 tries, where he could only get 5 to 7 fantasy points. So Myers is the 3rd kicker I'm going to bench. The 4th kicker is Dan Bailey of the Minnesota Vikings. Bailey used to be automatic when he was a Dallas Cowboy until that last season they cut him. But anyway, Bailey, he's just not putting up numbers now. In his last 3 fantasy games, in Week 6 he had an extra point, Week 8 4 extra points, and last week he missed an extra point and hit 4 PATs. So Bailey, he's not getting many opportunities. He's not hitting when he gets the opportunities, and he's just a guy I'm going to stay away from, and many owners have anyway. He's only 27% owned in fantasy leagues, so barely stay away from him, cut him, or just bench him anyway. And the 5th and final kicker I'm going to stay away from, and a guy I recommended to drop in my drop video, is Robbie Gould of the San Francisco 49ers. I've said it's not Gould's fault, but he just can't get in the opportunities or the position. On the season, he only has 1 game of double-digit fantasy points, and that's not good. And his last 3 games haven't been great either. Week 7, 8 fantasy points versus Seattle. In Week 8, he had 3, and then last week versus Green Bay, he had 4. His offense, they're not going to get into the red zone much. Nick Mullins or Beathard are going to start this week. We'll see who it is. There's no more Jimmy G. Mostert, I don't know if he's coming back this week, or Samuel or Ayuk. So that's a lot of guys gone. The offense not moving the ball. I know he's versus New Orleans this week, but I could see New Orleans defense really pouncing on San Francisco and that offense and not giving them many opportunities. So I'm going to bench Robbie Gould and possibly drop him. So that's 5 kickers I'm benching heading into Week 10.